Hey guys, how you doing today? So today I'm going to be working on replacing the rear struts on our '07 Toyota Camry XLE model. She has 123,000 miles on her, and the reason why is because I noticed upon checking tire pressure maybe about a month ago that the driver's side rear tire, the outer tread is like totally worn off. And I rotate the tires every every 6,000 miles. So I'm pretty much aware of the tire health and the tire tread, and I'm real good with keeping up with that. And the tire is only about maybe 3-4 years old. So anyway, the other symptoms is that there's also a knocking noise that's been there for a few years now on the driver's side rear as well, and also when going over bumps, the back kind of bounces more than it should, so it's not real stable. So I'm going to go ahead and just change them out. But before I do that, I am going to test the rear struts with my Stillman wireless chassis ear, which I'll show you that too as well. So I thought I'd just take you along to show you how this is done. So stay tuned. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to remove the seat. I need to remove the bottom cushion as well as the seat backs on both the driver and then the passenger side. But the first thing is to remove the bottom seat cushion, and to do that, all you have to do, I've already got it loose already, is let's see, as you can see right here, this is one of the connectors. So all you got to do is give it a good pull, and what you want to do is you want to grab it on both sides of with your hand and pull like straight up like that. Okay, and that it's only two, so it's this one here, and then there's one down there. Okay, and then all you got to do is just lift it out like so. Real easy, real simple. All right, so I already removed one of the seat cushions back here, and our particular model has the reclining seats, which you'll know by this handle right here. Okay, so I already took the driver's side out already, which is right here, because I wasn't sure how to do it. So I'm going to show you on this side here. So the first thing you do is you take off the headrest here, which I've already done that. Then these caps right here, they're kind of like this on here, and what you want to do is you want to pop these off using a panel removal tool. It's not that hard, just be careful that you don't break them. All right, and then as you see there, you remove these two bolts here, and what those are connected to is this part. This is the reclining feature here. Okay, so this is where they're threaded onto. All right, so you take those out, and then down here at the bottom there's one here, and all of these bolts are 12 millimeter. This one here, and then this one here. Take those out, and I'm just going to show you on this side. So that's where those screws are, right over there, and they hook into the bottom of the seat, which is right here and on that side over there. And then once you take those out, the seat belt, as you can see here, you can just take it through this little notch here. Okay, and then this particular piece comes off well. As you can see, it has 3 clips or fasteners. 1, 2, and then 3. And what this clips on to is, come back over here with me, right here. So 1, 2, 3. So, you know, you take that off and then the seat just lifts right out, you know, just like this here. So I have both of the seat cushions removed on both the driver and passenger side, as you can see. And I just laid the seats right here. And so right up here, right there, that's the upper strut. So you got 3 bolts. 1, 2, then the other one is right here. And there is actually a cover, which is this right here. Just use like a screwdriver or panel removal tool to pop this up to have access to the top bolt if necessary. You don't really have to do that, but because I'm going to be testing this strut with my Stillman wireless chassis ear, I want to put one of my sensors on top of this strut on both the driver and passenger side, and then one of these nuts or the bolts right here. Okay, so this is my Stillman wireless chassis ear. This is the transceiver here, and these are the transmitters here. So I've got 4 of them. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to attach them to both sides, and I'm going to go for a drive, and I'm going to listen, because I do know that on the rear driver's side there is a knock, which it's been there for a couple years. But then also, like I had showed you earlier, you probably can't see it now because the wheel is dirty, but look at the tire. Look, the outer tread is like totally, gone. And, I still have to take the tires off, but I wanted to take the seat out first before I do that. But this whole tire, is bald. And, I really believe that the strut is bad, as well as I know there's a lot of movement in the rear on both sides. So, but I still want to confirm at least the knock if it actually is the strut. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this. So I have my transmitters all set. So number 1 is actually on the top screw or bolt on the strut, and then number 3 is on one of the outer nuts, and it's basically the same setup on over there on the passenger side as well. Okay, so I have you with me in the car while I'm driving, and I have confirmed that it is the driver's side rear strut that's bad. Most likely the upper strut mount. Bushing is bad. And just to remind you that transmitter 1, that's on the driver's side. That's the center bolt. Transmitter 2 is the passenger side center bolt. Transmitter 3 is the driver's side, one of the outer bolts. And transmitter number 4 is on the passenger side, outer bolt. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find a bumpy street to go down so that you can actually hear and see what it is that, how I was able to confirm this. And I'm going to cycle through all of the transmitters while I'm doing this. Okay, so right now I'm at a stoplight. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, this wireless chassis here, I love this. I wish I would have invested in this years ago, because it makes finding noises so much easier than having to, you know, try to guess what it is when there is no physical evidence to show that there's a problem. And if you follow along down here, you can see the signal strength there. So I've got a bumpy road coming up, and I'll be able to, you know, show you. And remember, since the transmitter 1, that's on the driver's side center bolt, which is the one I suspected was the problem. That's strut on the passenger side center bolt. This is one of the outer bolts on the driver's side. This is one of the outer bolts on the passenger side. And there's the center bolt on the driver's side. So as you see, you know, it's picking up noise from the driver's side strut. So what I had speculated was correct. So now I'm about to go back to the garage, and I'm going to show you how to remove the struts. So what you want to do now is chalk both front wheels, and then jack up the back. And what you can do is, there's a jacking point right there if you have a big floor jack, and you can jack the back up all at one time. So she's all jacked up, and make sure you test the car for stability. And now it's time to remove the wheels. In my case, we have wheel locks, so make sure that you have the wheel lock to remove the locks off the wheels. Okay, so you're going to need a 7/8 socket to remove all of these. Sometimes it gets stuck in there. You can bang it out, or you can just put it back on the stud and then pull it off like this, and then just kind of wiggle it off. But for me, most of the time, it works just slamming it against the ground. And then what you want to do, take the wheel off, and then you want to slide it up underneath, right up here, right underneath the car. So in case if the jacks fail, it'll fall on the wheels and down on top of you. So, all right. So here we are. So while you're back here, inspect all your your brake hoses and lines, stabilizer bar end links, which is these here, your brakes, your rotors, And this is the strut right here. So so basically all I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna need to remove this nut here. I'm gonna have to remove the stabilizer bar and link nut, and then we have the two strut bolts here as well, and it might be another one on here. I'll have to look around, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna remove all of those. So I'm gonna remove all this stuff down here first, then I'm gonna go inside and remove the upper strut mount bolts. And you got to make sure that you stabilize the knuckle down here, because it's going to fall down and you don't want that. So what I'm going to use, one of these rubber. This is actually a rubber bungee cord here. I find that these work best. These work the best. Okay, so make sure that you use some penetrating oil on all the bolts. And what I used is I used some PP Blaster, which just works really good. So I let it sit for about 5 minutes while I took the wheel off on the passenger side. And I saw another bolt like right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5 down there. Okay, so I'm taking off the stabilizer bar and link, which is a 14 millimeter. I'm also using a 15 millimeter open box-end wrench to hold the back of it so it doesn't spin while I take this off. Just like that. Now, these are not the OEM ones. I had already replaced this, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. And as you can see, I put some anti-seize on there, which this stuff works great. So as you see, you know, the nut came off. Okay, so I'm about to remove this bolt here, which is, what is this? This is a 12 millimeter. Okay, this bolt right here, this one is a 10 millimeter. So to remove this brake line here, as you can see how it's attached in there, all you need is just take a screwdriver and put it in here like this, and then it comes right out. Don't try to pull this out with your hand, because you may rip it. And as you can see, it comes right out. Now what I'm going to do is, before I take these bolts out here, I'm going to take out the new struts and just make sure that all of this stuff is on here, because I haven't opened them yet and I haven't compared them. I'm going to compare them anyway once I take the strut out, but before I even do that, mess up the alignment and everything, I want to make sure that I can try to match them up as closely as I can while this is still on the car. Okay, so everything looks the same on the replacement strut, and as you can see, I put the bolts in. Just make sure that you use a wire brush to clean the threads off of the bolts, because both of these had like rust on them. I don't know, probably from me pulling them out, and it was hard trying to get it in there. But once I cleaned them off and then I lubricated it, with some DW40, they went right in. So as you can see, it has the notch here for the brake line. This is also here, which is identical to the OEM one. And yeah, and everything else pretty much looks on par. So I'm going to compare it even further once I take this out, the old one out, and put them side by side and let you see it then. And okay, you know what? I'll show you the part numbers once I put them side by side. Oh, another thing. Instead of me using my bungee cord here, I'm going to use my floor jack. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my floor jack like right here. And the reason why is because there's no place for me to put my bungee cord in order to make sure that the knuckle doesn't fall down. But my floor jack will be able to hold it up, so I'm going to kind of cheat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and remove these bolts here. And then I'm going to remove the top bolts, and she will be ready to come out. Okay, so as you can see, I have my floor jack all set up on right underneath the knuckle there. And this bolt here, the nut as well as the bolt is 3/4. So 3/4 and 3/4 socket. So you gotta use open or close the box wrench so that you can hold it, so as you take the nut out, unscrew it, it doesn't spin. And be very careful of the brake line there. Alright, so here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave the bolt in there until I get both of them out. Okay. So I'm going to let my, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put both bolts back on. I'm going to use my sledgehammer to knock these out. And you want to be very careful because you don't want to dent them. And it's actually a good idea to reverse it so that you'll hit this side here. So you see how they're coming out. You got to be very careful of the brake line over on this side, over here. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the bottom one out first. The reason why is because I think this one would be a little easier. since I can't get it out, I'm going to use this to tap it out. Yeah, it's kind of hard, but I'm getting it. It's coming out. Not sure what my bolt. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's the bottom bolt, and so now I'm going to go ahead and knock out the top bolt. Again, I'm going to take the nut off, and then I'm going to finish. So I'm going to have to do the same thing to knock this one out. You want to be very careful. And the reason why is because you don't want to mess up the threads. Yeah, because this is so right now it's not moving. So I think what I'm going to do, really have anything else. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this out, and I'll come back. Okay, so I got the second bolt out. As you can see, I already moved the knuckle down some. What I did was I adjusted my floor jack to lower maybe a couple inches at a time as I was pulling on it. So now I'm about to go inside the vehicle and take off the upper strut mount bolts. All right, so I'm inside now, and these are the 3 upper strut mount bolts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this one here and that one there, and then I'm going to just loosen this one, so I'll be able to hold the strut from underneath in the wheel well and unscrew it from in here so that it doesn't just fall out. So I can't show you me doing this because I have no way to support my phone. But I'll definitely come back when I'm done. Okay, so I was actually able to take all the upper strut mount bolts off without this falling down. And so now, really the only thing that's holding it up is the steering knuckle here. So, what I'm going to try to do is try to move this out. I'm going to lower my jack just a little bit. As you can see, it came down some more. And what you want to do, gotta be very careful. Let's move that out of the way, and voila, there we go, it's out. All right, let me take over to the workbench so that we can compare these, right? All right, so here are the struts side by side, and this is the part number here, It's a KYB strut, a quick strut. This is the number, and for the right side, and you can tell, no, I'm sorry, left side, that is left, because as you can see there, there's the L. Okay, so basically these, as you can see, they're perfect. They're identical. As far as with the brackets there, even this indentation right here, even underneath, you know, I'm looking at this part here. Let's count them. Let's see how many coils it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one has 7 coils, which will give a stiffer ride, and also the back won't bottom out when it's loaded. Okay, so let's see, and this is what the front looks like, or the top. So yeah, yeah, it's pretty identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install this in the reverse. Now, according to the owner's manual or the repair manual, it says when reinstalling this that the weight of the vehicle has to be on the strut before tightening all the bolts. Not quite sure why, but that's what it says. I'm going to try that out and see. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. I wanted to show you the passenger side strut. Being the reason why is, well, one, I need to show you the part number, but then two is because this one is shaped a little differently as far as the bottom part of it. If you remember from the driver's side, which is the left side, it had a little, you know, kind of like a little point to it, whereas this one on the passenger side doesn't. See, check that out. But everything else pretty much lines up, you know, as far as the holes and everything like that. And let's see the part number for this one, and I'll make sure to put the links in the description. That's the part number for this one, and this one is the right side. And again, you'll know it just because they actually put a letter there. Alright, okay, so just wanted to show you that. Alright, make sure you test the upper strut mount bolts to make sure that they work on all of the threads before you actually put it in. Okay, alright. Okay, so I'm ready to put the strut in. Make sure that you put anti-seize on all your bolts, just like I did with these, even though it's going to be inside the cabin. I still put them on anyway, because, you know, you just never know. Okay, so when you put it back in, make sure that the strut is facing the correct way. Good rule of thumb is that this part that's sticking out here is sticking towards the rear of the vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this. I'm going to try my best to line up the holes. And then while you're doing it, you got to make sure that you have a bolt ready, one of the top bolts, so that you can, once you get the top part of the strut mount through, you can put the bolt down to hold it in place. And this is probably going to be the hardest part, because I can't really see. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause it here, and then I'll come back once I get it in. Up, so as you can see, got it in there. Let me take you on the inside. So you see, got my one bolt right back there. See that? So so now I'm going to put the other 3 bolts on. I'm not tightening them, I'm just hand tightening them. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to put the steering knuckle in. And I'm actually going to clean these bolts up and put some anti-seize all the way from this all the way through the threads to the end. Okay, so while I was cleaning the threads on the bolts here, I noticed that they use red Loctite. I confirmed that because you can see it inside here. See, if you look. So after you clean these off, I'm gonna put my anti-seize on. I'm gonna put a thin layer of anti-seize on the threads, and then I'm gonna put some Loctite on there, the red Loctite. Okay, just wanted to show you this quick tip. I put the bottom bolt in first. That was pretty easy. Also, I had to use my this here to knock the rest of the bolt in because it was still just sticking out about 1 inch. So for the top one, because you know the knuckle has to be pushed towards the inside part of the vehicle, I decided, you know, it's too hard trying to hold it up and then try to put the bolt through. So I used my floor jack. I have this little, I'm not even sure, it's like a hockey puck, but it's basically used so that, as you can see, has an indentation in there for the factory lift points. And I used that to jack it up, and it pushed it right in the spot, so I didn't even have to hold it. So the floor jack has actually come in handier than what I thought it would. And what I'm going to do now, I have both bolts on. I'm going to put some of that red Loctite on there. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push. I'm going to use my floor jack to push the strut up to emulate the, like as if it was basically resting on the ground. I'm going to just tighten up all the bolts. Okay, so make sure that you torque the bolts to spec. So right here you see the strut 2 axle carrier nut bolts, new nut, 133 foot-pounds, and then the upper mounting nut is 29 foot-pounds. So I just wanted to show you that. Alright, so got the strut assembly all in, connected the brake hose and the ABS wire here. I did make sure that I put anti-seize on those, torqued them. Well, I didn't torque these to specs, but I did torque the strut mount bolts to spec. And just make sure that you don't have any wires or hoses in the way of any moving parts. The stabilizer bar end link, because I had the knuckle jacked up a little higher, I couldn't attach it. So what I did was, after I tightened up the bolts on the strut, I started to lower it down just enough where the stabilizer bar end link could line up, and I was able to push it through the strut there and just tighten that up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, make sure that you take your vehicle in for a wheel alignment when you're done. The only thing that they'll be able to do on the rear is the toe, according to the repair manual. So anyway, I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. And you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.